Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. I hope everybody had a good Easter weekend. Some of you might be still on vacation. So many more 16mm films to show you. And today's show is going to be short because I have to go get a haircut. It's getting a little long and it's getting in my eyes. And yeah. Anyways, enough about me. Let's watch a late era Cornet film, and you know what that means? It's gonna be animated. Enjoy.
See that magic lamp? A smart, good-looking genie lives in there. Me? People tell us genies what to do all the time. So we have to be able to follow instructions. But not everybody knows how. For instance, long ago there was a young man named Sinbad who often got into trouble. When he got a new magic carpet for his birthday, he didn't look at the instructions. He just got on the carpet and flew away. He didn't pay attention when someone explained to him what kind of nail to use to hang up a new picture. And when he baked a cake, he didn't always follow the steps in the recipe. Naturally, nothing he did worked out very well, because he didn't follow instructions. The problem was, he didn't know how. And that was too bad, because Sinbad had always wanted to be a sailor. And as everybody knows, sailors have to be able to follow instructions. It would have been simple for Sinbad to learn, but for some reason, he had never done it.
Simple? Are you kidding? I couldn't learn how to follow instructions in a million years.
Sure you could. It's easy.
It is?
You just do three things. First, you pay attention to the instructions. Then, you make sure you understand the instructions. And last, if the instructions have steps, you follow the steps in order.
That's all there is to it? Gee, maybe I can get to be a sailor.
In the meantime, Sinbad worked in a small palace. One day, he received an instruction.
Now, what did he say?
Sinbad knew that he hadn't paid attention, but then he realized that he didn't know how to pay attention. So he watched other people to see how they did it when they got instructions. The first thing he noticed was that people always looked at the person giving the instruction. And when he looked around some more, he noticed that people didn't do anything else at the same time, like whistle. In fact, usually people don't even think about other things at the same time. That's how they pay attention. But there was something Sinbad didn't notice. When people get written instructions, they read them all the way through. And when people listen to instructions, they listen to them all before they follow them. But since Sinbad didn't notice this, the next time he got an instruction, one written down, he read the first line.
Please mail this letter. That looks easy.
But he didn't read the rest. Be sure to put a stamp on it. Paying attention to all of an instruction before we follow it helps keep us from getting things wrong and having to do them again. But that's not the worst that can happen. Paying attention only part way might also get us into real trouble.
Would you clean out the tiger cage? Not now, of course, since the tigers are still there.
So Sinbad finally learned all about paying attention That's the first step in following instructions. And it's good he did, because he needed to pay attention to instructions in order to learn to understand them. And that's the second step. The next day, he got a note from the palace elephant trainer, and it said, "Sinbad, give the elephants 20 gallons of water outside on the grass at 3 o'clock, because they will be thirsty."
Gee, that sure is a lot of words. I don't know where to start.
Well, the first thing to do to understand an instruction is to look for the important words. Words like those that tell you who, what, when, where, what for, and how many. In your note, who is supposed to follow the instruction?
Me, Sinbad.
And what are you supposed to do?
Give the elephants water.
How many gallons?
20.
Where?
Outside on the grass.
When?
At 3 o'clock.
What for?
Because they will be thirsty.
Right. That's all there is to it. If you find all of the important words, you're likely to understand all of the instruction.
Let's see, how many gallons? I forgot.
If you have any questions, you should check the important words one more time by rereading or asking. How many gallons?
Oh, 20 gallons.
So Sinbad was able to follow the instruction correctly because he understood it all. Sinbad felt that now he knew enough about following instructions, so he decided to take the test to become a sailor. The first thing that happened was the person giving the test told him to
Put your name in the upper right-hand corner.
Sinbad paid careful attention and then put his name here on the left side. It looked like Sinbad had a lot more to learn about following instructions before he could become a sailor.
I knew where the upper right-hand corner was, but I got mixed up. How can I keep from getting mixed up?
Well, one good way is to make a mental picture.
A what?
If someone asks you to put your name in the upper right-hand corner, you just try to imagine what you're supposed to do. You ask yourself, does my name go here? Here? Over here? Where is the upper right-hand corner anyway?
Right there.
Correct. And once you get a good picture in your head of where it is, you can picture your name there. It would be pretty hard to get mixed up after you did that.
You just make a picture in your head.
Here's another use of mental pictures. Suppose I was your genie and you could give me an instruction. What would you ask me to do?
Let's see. I'd ask you to make me a sandwich.
I might try to understand your instruction by making a mental picture. In this case, I could make some of the picture, but not all of it. It would be clear that you wanted 2 slices of bread, but what would go between them? Peanut butter and jelly? Cheese? Pickles? The answer wouldn't be clear from your instruction. So I would need to ask a question. What kind of sandwich?
Turkey with lettuce.
Now the picture could be completed, and you could get your sandwich. Making mental pictures can tell us if instructions aren't clear, and then we can ask questions to make them clear, so we can understand them. So now Sinbad knew how to pay attention, and he knew some things he could do to help him understand instructions, but he didn't know how to follow steps in order. One day at the palace, he was given a tent, and these instructions for putting it up. 1, take the tent out of the box. 2, put up the frame. 3, put up the tent. He paid attention to the instructions as he read them through, and he understood them all. Then he started to follow them. He took the tent out of the box. He put up the tent. And then he put up the frame.
Did I do something wrong?
You were right to read all the steps first, but you didn't follow them in order. The numbers tell what the order should be. You got the first step right, take the tent out of the box. But then you should have done step 2, put up the frame. And then, step 3, put up the tent. Sinbad got another chance to follow instructions with steps when the palace gardener told him how to plant a seed.
First, you dig a hole. Then you put the seed in the hole. And last, you cover it up.
This time, Sinbad paid careful attention to words that told him in what order he should do the steps. In fact, to make sure he had the instructions right, he did something that's a very good idea. He repeated them back to the gardener.
Did you say first dig a hole, then put the seed in it, and last cover it up? Yep.
So that's what Sinbad did. He dug a hole, he put the seed in it, and he covered it up. Now, at last, he did everything exactly right. Sinbad had learned a lot about following instructions. He learned that we have to pay attention when we're getting an instruction, that we shouldn't try to do anything else at the same time, and that it's best to pay attention to all of an instruction before we follow it. He learned that noticing important words can help us understand an instruction, and that we can also understand by imagining pictures of what we're supposed to do. And he learned that when instructions have several steps, it's important to follow the steps in order. Now that Sinbad knew all this, he decided to take the test again and passed, and finally became a sailor. And one day, he was put in charge of his own ship, so he could give instructions.
First, check for leaks, then plug up the leaks, and last, bail out the water.
Now, what did he say?
You're going to have to learn to do 3 things. Pay attention to the instructions, understand them, and if the instructions have steps, follow the steps in order. That's how to follow instructions.
Really, no credit for Hal Smith? That's too bad. Yeah, Hal Smith, that's definitely his voice, and he voiced a lot of educational films, and also voiced a lot of cartoons, and also was a character actor, most notably known as Otis the Drunk on the Andy Griffith Show, but he also did the voice of Goofy, wide variety of different voices, and he shows up in these films that we have. I can't remember the series, but it's the such and such game. So it's like the courtesy game, the blah, blah, blah game. And he plays a guy at a fix-it shop, and everything he says rhymes. And it is not great. I think I have a low threshold. We all have low thresholds for various things that we show on this channel. Rhyming is, that's a low threshold for me. All right, so this film is a mystery because on the can, it was written Seagull, but this is not, it's not what this is. I don't even know, we don't know what the title of this is, but I'm guessing it's something like reading between the lines, so maybe we can figure it out together. So get your 80s hats on, enjoy.
Hey, what do you think of my hat? Nice color.
Stands out in the crowd.
Looks like it's gonna last a while. I'm glad you both like it.
Now that's the kind of conversation where people didn't really say what they mean. If they had, it would have probably gone something like this.
Hey, what do you think of my hat? The color's nice. If you like ugly color.
Well, it stands out in the crowd. So let's not be seen in one.
Looks like it's gonna last a long time. Yeah, too long. I'm glad you both like it.
You creeps.
So what we were illustrating were two levels of meaning, one stated and one not stated in the conversation.
Now, some of the things you read also have unstated messages, but a good reader is able to discover these hidden meanings. The process is called interpreting what you read. It's a matter of reading between the lines. When people talk, their unspoken thoughts are communicated by all kinds of signals: gestures, body language, facial expressions, tones of voice. Printed words also give signals. We're going to see what some of them are and how you find them. These are the reading skills that Marie is working on now. Some of the skills she's learned you can put to work to help you practice interpreting meaning, not just in the reading center, but outside of school, the way Maria is doing it.
All right, let's see what they are. First, notice how you react to these various ways of classifying you.
You are a child.
You're a kid.
You're a juvenile.
You're a minor.
Well, you're a young person.
Do you have different reactions to these labels?
If you do, it's because although the dictionary defines all five similarly, each one has a different feel, a different unstated meaning that you're reacting to.
Maybe the word child makes you think of people younger than you, and you feel put down. And the word juvenile might make you think in terms of teenage crime. A word's dictionary meaning is its denotation. An unstated meaning, the feeling you get from it, is its connotation.
When an author uses a word, both meanings can come across. If a reader is able to read interpretively, if you practice finding secondary meanings, you can get more out of reading. In fiction, connotations can be more important than denotations, especially when authors use figurative language. A figure of speech describes one thing in terms of another. Here, listen.
The lioness held him motionless with her icy stare. In that phrase, one thing, a stare, is described in terms of another. Ice, not denotative frozen water, but connotative, dangerous, chilling, coolness. It's connotation that gives the figure of speech power. Here's one way to become more aware of figurative language. Next time you travel, try to make up your own figures of speech to describe what you see. Can you make up one to describe what you see here? How about this? Or these?
Whatever you made up, it's probably more interesting than an ordinary phrase like busy city. That's why authors use figures of speech. So look for them.
And watch also for another type of unstated meaning.
Boy, Skarpovich won by a landslide.
Yeah, he was rich, so he got elected. What else can you say about that?
Well, Wilson wasn't rich and he got elected.
What this woman means is that the candidate got elected because he was rich. Her spoken words are based on an unstated belief that wealth helps ensure a candidate's election.
Unstated beliefs are called assumptions, and spotting them is an important interpretation skill.
For practice, you might try to find a publication that prints interviews and look for the assumptions behind certain statements. For instance, this one.
I'd like to express my opinion as forcefully as I can. Although most of the people that elected me were never forced to live during those terrible times, the tragedy of that era is so interwoven into our sense of history that most of us actually feel as though we lived during the Depression and never want to live through it again.
Which of these is the assumption behind the statement? This is the unstated belief.
Besides assumptions and connotations, there are still other kinds of unstated meanings. To see what I mean, answer a few questions about words and phrases from this book.
What historical time do these words suggest? What place or nation? What mood? What feeling or belief? The time is the Middle Ages, the place, England, the mood, one of urgency, and the belief that a knight is always loyal to his king. None of this information is given in what you read.
Yet you can get it by using keywords and phrases to make educated guesses. This is called inferring.
To practice it, take a book you've never read, open to any paragraph. Try to decide what time, place, mood, and beliefs or feelings it shows. Write down the key words and phrases that give you that information. Try it mentally with this excerpt from a novel.
The humanoid Zandra must send coded laser messages to the orbiting Earthships, each message a step towards the liberation of Luna City and eventually all her beloved satellite.
These are words and phrases from the excerpt, which tell the time. These tell that the action probably occurs in the future. On the moon. Which words suggest a mood? The mood is tense. Which words show the character's feelings? These show her dedication. Words and phrases that suggest secondary meanings can be found in almost anything you read, because most authors want you to get more from what they write than just the dictionary meaning of their words.
But how can you be sure that those extra meanings you get are right? Well, you can't. But you can see if they're sort of reasonable.
You can compare your ideas with the ideas of other people. You can check with other sources of information. And most of all, you can compare what the author is suggesting with what you know from your own experience.
What I've shown you so far is usually thought of as reading between the lines. But interpreting also means reading behind the lines. For instance, by looking for their purpose.
The printed word can have many purposes. To provide information, to give directions or instructions, to offer light entertainment, or more serious entertainment. Many things try to persuade you to believe something, do something, or buy something.
Those are general purposes. Keep an eye out for them. And look also for specific purposes. Sometimes they're visible, but sometimes they're hidden.
There was a time when people seemed to avoid me. Then I tried Tingle. Now I'm so busy, I hardly have time to... See what I mean? Tingle. It keeps you fresh and busy.
That commercial's visible purpose was to sell a product. Its hidden one was to make you feel that people will like you better if you use it and avoid you if you don't.
To practice finding both visible and hidden purposes, study magazine ads. For example, look at this one. Which of these is the ad's visible purpose? The visible purpose is to interest you in buying the car. Which is the hidden one? The ad's hidden purpose might be to make you think that the car will make you more attractive to others. Here's another ad. Which of these is its visible purpose? The visible one is to ask you to vote for McCoy. And the hidden one? This one, to make you fear that the other candidate is for pollution.
Reading between and behind the lines. Those are two levels of interpreting. A third is reading beyond the lines. To see what that is, think about what these people are saying.
My brother-in-law works for the city, and he says the energy crisis is a hoax.
Hey, hospitals are full of sick people. If you want to stay healthy, man, don't go into one.
This country's biggest problem is high food prices and clothes. Who can afford them?
If you question those statements, you see what it is to read beyond the lines. It's being critical, making judgments, and questioning what you read before you accept it.
For nonfiction, ask questions like these. Is the source trustworthy? Is the point of view reasonable? Is it logical? Are other viewpoints also reasonable? Are some more reasonable than others? To practice reading beyond the lines of nonfiction, study a newspaper's letters to the editor. For each one, write down questions you'd like to ask the writer. Try it mentally with this one.
Dear editor, the way to stop crime is to make everyone subject to a curfew. One study shows over 60% of all crimes are committed after dark.
What questions would you ask the author? How about these?
Does that survey really mean anything?
The curfew might stop some crime, but what effect would it have on our freedom?
Ask your own questions like these about nonfiction, and ask about fiction, too.
For instance, is the story true to your own experience? Are the characters believable? Does what you learn about fictional people help you more clearly understand real people?
These questions aren't always easy to answer. In fact, none of the things we've just seen are as simple as we've shown them. Even so, it's important that you do try to interpret, because reading between the lines, behind the lines, and beyond the lines gives you purpose and helps you put more into what you read, so you're able to get more out of it.
All right, so that's weird. I mean, there were some like hiccups in there, but there was no superimposed text. And so looking at the can says, I don't know if you can see it. It says seagull, black and white. And obviously that's not what it is. But then here it says, reading self-improvement, interpreting what you read, producer's print. That's interesting. It's possible that this was made to get approval from the producer before they did overlaid the text. Although it seems like you're almost done. Like, why don't you do that? Because I've seen examples where the text that they put over it was black and it should have been white, and I'm not sure why they did that, but anyways, that was so strange. And there was some text that would show up if it wasn't overlaying live film. So weird, very, very weird. Great hat though. Okay, this is The Secrets to Making Good Grades. Enjoy. Actually, I messed up. I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you, because of our timing, I want to show you field burnout test of apartment units. We will save the secrets to making good grades till tomorrow, because I have to get a haircut. All right, here we go. Enjoy. Enjoy.
One of the greatest hazards to life and property is fire, whether in congested areas of a big city or in modern-day suburban housing developments. Although fire does not discriminate among its victims, slum areas are more susceptible to the ravages of fire. To help provide safer and better housing, fire research scientists are constantly testing and evaluating new types of housing construction. The performance of such construction under fire conditions is an important part of this testing and evaluation. This is a report of tests conducted by the Fire Research Section of the National Bureau of Standards in Gaithersburg, Maryland, an agency of the United States Department of Commerce. The Pratt Institute School of Architecture designed and constructed a special test building with funds provided by the federal government's Housing and Home Finance Agency now the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who funded the study as part of their low-income housing demonstration program. The project was developed to show that new materials and advanced construction methods can lead to important changes in the development of low-income housing projects. Current laboratory tests of fire resistance provide comparative evaluation of individual housing components. This unique series of full-scale tests evaluated the combined effects of fire and structural load on complete housing assemblies. The test building, located in Carteret, New Jersey, consisted of two-story wings connected by a wooden platform and a stairway. One wing has steel frame construction with exposed exterior columns and dry wall construction. The other wing was precast concrete floor and bearing wall construction. The two wings had 3 rooms on each level. In the test building, structural and architectural features were incorporated to accomplish the following objectives: confinement of fire and smoke within the dwelling unit in which the fire starts, protection of the building structure against load failure, and use of minimum quantities of combustible construction materials. A wood fire load was placed in the center room of each wing to represent the weight of combustible furnishings. 6 pounds of dry lumber per square foot of floor area were nailed into lattice-type cribs. Thermocouples were suspended from the ceiling to measure the temperature in each test room. Other thermocouples were attached to structural elements and placed under asbestos pads on the unexposed wall and floor surfaces of the adjacent rooms. A photometer was placed on the floor, together with a mirror flush-mounted on the ceiling to measure smoke accumulation. In order to measure floor deflection above the fire room, wires were fastened to the surface of the floor and by means of pulleys brought outside to an indicating board with graduated scales. Radiation and gas composition inside the building were also measured. The first test was conducted in the first floor center room of the steel wing. To the right, connected by a closed door, was a second room of the same apartment. To the left was a room of an adjacent apartment with a half bath and an entrance to an outside balcony. Measurements were made of temperature, radiation, smoke, and gases throughout the building. The sliding window in the fire room was partially opened to control the maximum burning rate at the beginning of the test. All other doors and windows were closed. No effort was made to prevent loss of window glass due to fire. A clock was set in front of the test building to record the running time of each fire test. The wood cribs, supported off the floor, were ignited with a liquid fuel, heptane, placed in pans beneath them. The wind speed was 7 miles per hour. After 1 minute, the temperature in the fire room reached over 500 degrees Fahrenheit. After 5 minutes, the temperature was 800 degrees, and a section of window glass fell out. Smoke penetrated the adjacent room through cracks around the connecting door. After 10 minutes, the temperature in the fire room rose to 1,000 degrees. The window stripping softened, and the components of the composite party wall generated heavy black smoke. A radiometer facing the fire room window measured irradiance levels. These measurements provided information with which to estimate the minimum building separations needed to help prevent spread of fire by thermal radiation. After 15 minutes, the temperature in the fire room reached over 1,300 degrees. The glazing fell out and flashover occurred. Flames completely filled the room. The temperature rose sharply, reaching 1,800 degrees in the next 3 minutes, and part of the east partition wall collapsed. Later, the ceiling collapsed, exposing the steel floor structure. Just prior to flashover, paint on the rear exterior door softened and later ignited. The intense heat also ignited the finish on the back curtain wall panels. The intensity of flames emerging from the window raised the temperature on a portion of the exterior column to over 800 degrees. The window pane in the room above the fire room fell out. After 30 minutes, flame intensity decreased. After the test, the entire steel wing was inspected. The fire effects were attributed not only to the burnout of the 6 pounds per square foot of wood cribs, but also to the combustible portions of the floor, walls, and ceiling construction, which together weighed approximately 3 pounds per square foot of floor area. Smoke had penetrated the adjacent room through cracks around the closed connecting door. In terms of visibility, smoke had become critical in less than 5 minutes. The second floor rooms had been loaded with concrete blocks to represent a design load of 40 pounds per square foot. With the blocks removed, the permanent floor deflection was measured. There was no rupture or sudden structural failure in the ceiling joists above the fire room. However, these joists showed a permanent deflection of approximately 6 inches. Distortion and warping were found in the spandrel beam and other structural members. Some flaming had penetrated the area above the fire room, primarily because a separation developed between the floor and curtain wall. However, the transmission of heat directly through the floor was not excessive. Smoke had accumulated in the second floor center room and had become critical after 45 minutes. The second test was conducted in the first floor center room of the concrete wing. This wing of precast concrete construction contained a blue curtain wall consisting of an aluminum sandwich panel with an expanded plastic core. As in the previous tests, measurements were made of temperature, radiation, smoke, and gases. The fire occurred in the center room. Conditions for this test were nearly identical to those in the first test. However, the prevailing wind was blowing 14 miles per hour towards the window. The second floor room was loaded with concrete blocks using a design load of 40 pounds per square foot. All instruments were checked. This radiometer facing the second-story window measured the heat radiation produced by flames from the fire room below. The wood cribs were ignited with heptane fuel. Again, 6 pounds of dry lumber per square foot of floor area represented the weight of combustible furnishings. The liquid fuel served only to ignite the wood cribs and burned out early in the test. As in the first test, the fire room window was partially open. Due to the cooling effect of a strong southerly wind, the wood cribs did not ignite simultaneously. Thus, the pattern of fire development was considerably slower than in the first test. Shortly after 40 minutes, the window glass was broken by pieces of flying concrete. This was due to spalling or surface disintegration of concrete caused by high temperatures and the rapid movement of moisture. With more air to feed on, the fire spread rapidly. The room temperature climbed to 1,000 degrees, and within a few minutes rose to 1,300 degrees. Spalling continued intermittently for half an hour. Smoke penetrated the adjacent room and reached a critical level in less than 5 minutes, about the same as in the first test. Later, smoke also penetrated to the room directly above the fire room. After 44 minutes, flashover occurred and flames pushed through the open window. The wind, growing strong and more variable, was a major factor in the fire's slower buildup. After 50 minutes, average temperatures in the fire room decreased slowly. But even after flaming subsided, temperatures on structural members and in adjacent rooms continued to rise. After the test, an inspection was made. There was no evidence of serious structural distress except for spalling of the concrete walls. The spalling had exposed numerous reinforcing bars to a maximum spall depth of 2 inches. Long-term drying of the concrete before the fire would have decreased this condition. There were some cracks and separations, primarily along interior and exterior joints. The maximum floor deflection in the room above the fire room was less than 1 inch. Some flames and smoke had penetrated through separations between the floor, walls, and baseboard moldings. This evaporated moisture was forced out of the concrete walls by the heat of the fire. While the temperature had reached 250 degrees on the closed connecting door after 15 minutes, smoke in the first floor adjacent room had reached a critical density after 7 minutes. As other tests have demonstrated, a closed door can provide several additional minutes of human safety before smoke levels become excessive. The third test was conducted in the second floor room of the concrete wing. The floor plan was the same as in the second test. For this test, the 20-foot-long roof slab was loaded with concrete blocks. A southwest wind was blowing at 11 miles per hour. This time, the fire's development was not seriously affected by the wind. Temperatures built up more rapidly than in the second test. After 4 minutes, the temperature in the fire room had reached 1,000 degrees. And after 15 minutes, had leveled off at 1,200 degrees. Sections of window glass fell out a little after 18 minutes. The fire, fed with more air, increased in intensity. Thick flames filled the upper half of the fire room. As in the 2 previous tests, a fire of considerable severity was produced with a burnout of 6 pounds of combustibles per square foot of floor area. After 30 minutes, the rest of the window glass fell out and the fire room temperature reached 1,600 degrees. This exceeded the melting point of aluminum, causing the sandwich panel to melt. After 1 hour, the flames died down. The maximum deflection of the roof slab was a little over 1 inch. After an hour and 15 minutes, there was some slow smoldering and occasional flaming and smoking in the sandwich panel. Fire continued to spread in the sandwich panel for 2.5 hours. The core was burned out except for sections above and to the right of the window frame. In the adjoining apartment, room temperature never exceeded 90 degrees, and the highest wall temperature was 156 degrees. Considering this, plus the fact that smoke levels and gas concentrations were not high, it is possible that occupants of that apartment would not have been adversely affected by the fire. These tests produced important data that could not have been obtained from laboratory tests of individual components, but they also pointed to the difficulties involved in producing controlled fire growth patterns in field tests. Observations made during the full-scale field tests will aid in the development of more realistic and meaningful laboratory tests. The National Bureau of Standards Fire Research Section analyzed results of the tests to learn whether the original performance requirements had been met. Based on the analysis, some modifications and improvements in the test building design were suggested. The complete official report of this project is entitled Field Burnout Tests of Apartment Dwelling Units and may be purchased from the Superintendent of Documents, U.S. Government Printing Office, Washington, D.C. Full-scale fire tests provide a realistic evaluation of fire hazards to life and property. Such tests, when conducted on a complete integrated construction rather than on components and individual assemblies, hold special interest for architects, engineers, and building code officials. They present the designer with new concepts in realizing safe design. The ultimate result is safer housing and better living.
Fascinating. Yeah, incredibly dry, but man, I love government films like this that really are like, we need to figure out if the materials and the designs of these new high occupancy apartment buildings, if what the fire is like there, and how can we make it safer, and also how can we cut costs. Really interesting. Anyways, I'm getting my hair cut, so I'll have shorter hair tomorrow, guaranteed. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Jeremy, thank you for donating via the Super Thanks button. That's a great way to support us. You can also go to ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. But also just hit the thumbs up or the like button or subscribe. Those are great ways to support us as well. Yeah. I'm going to sit in a chair for 30, 40 minutes. And we will see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your Easter Monday. Take care.